Okay, Jonathan Reed. I guess you go by JR. How are you?
Yeah. I'm fine. How are you?
Good. So you're from Origin?
I am. Been in Origin for a very long time. Well, on and off over the
Yeah.
years.
Yeah, I see you bounce in and out of there.
Yeah, I did. I started in 2012. After I left, I spent a lot of time. I don't know. I started playing in 2009. In high sec. I eventually kind of gravitated to nullsec through, average high sec gets contact, recruited into like industry or whatever, and then made my way through the old NC, ended up in the drone regions.
That's the
Then,
original Northern Coalition.
yes, the
Yeah.
original NC.
Hmm.
Ended up in the drone regions in another alliance called Strange Brew back
Hmm.
when Shadow of XX Death was the big thing. And then, just played there for a couple of years. I was on a different character before I was on JR. Then I swapped to JR, joined the same corp. It was right around the time that Tengus were the thing, so I sold my character. Then went to Black Legion Origin, a friend left, and then that's basically all she wrote. Spent, 2 years playing the game solid in Origin before taking some personal time, some real life stuff, and then coming back in March of last year.
Origin is a storied corp. You don't really get in there unless you're a pretty good PvPer. Tell us about that corporation.
So Origin has been around for a long time. I've been in Origin since 2012, so I kind of started out when Origin was I guess reaching a crescendo, I guess, between 2012 and 2014, Black Legion. Um
It was the core. It was the main corporation in Black Legion, or one of them. That was probably the main one.
yeah, the main corp in Black Legion besides I guess Steel Ratty's corp, Broski North, I guess would also be called like the other core corp of Black Legion.
Mm-hmm.
Um I'm sure some people in Black Legion will probably yell at me about that, or ex Black Legion around PL will probably
It's
be like,
it's
"Oh,
fine.
that's
Let
not that."
let me embarrass Black. Let me embarrass Origin for a second. Actually, I don't know if it's embarrassing, but you guys jumped into Nully Segunda at one point, right?
That was before I joined, but yeah, they
Yeah,
did before they reformed. They were Nully, and I could probably ask you all about that.
I know. I talked to him about it. I said, "What happened there?" Because they jumped in, and about 3 weeks later, they're like, "Gotta go. Cultural differences." And I
Yeah,
was like, "Cultural differences? What was that about?" And he said, like, basically, Nully was like, people would be like, did you say jump?" Totally undisciplined. They're like, "Yeah, yeah, we're not going to fit in here." So they went back to Black Legion.
yeah. That's basically what I heard. I mean, again, that was before my time,
Yeah.
so I wasn't really into the whole politics scene and the whole. I didn't really know that much about like, like null-sec entities in general. I was still kind of like a noob going into a PvP corp. I was good at PvP for, I guess, null-sec average at the time, but
Mm-hmm.
eh.
Well, then you guys became Black Legion became one of the things that would scare even Pandemic Legion, right? Like maybe
Yeah.
maybe the
I
only
mean,
alliance that would.
yeah, I would agree with that. Maybe a
Mhm.
little bit too pompous at times.
Maybe
Maybe.
you guys were fighting over the title of Kings of Lowsec, I believe, Pandemic Legion or Black Legion, and so that's something you're aware of, right? I mean, something that you know about Lowsec.
I have a fair bit. I mean, basically since I don't know, basically the last year I've spent in LoSec. I spent a couple of months in NPC Geminate when Origin was still in White Legion doing some stuff over there. But we basically went to LoSec to join DH. Did he say jump? Because that was like it was like seemed like the best option. The corp didn't really want to go to nullsec. We had a invitation to join Steel down in the south, in Aquarius when the QFC was still a thing, but it was just was didn't seem like the right move at the time coming out of an alliance. So
Yeah, I love that name. Did he say jump?
yeah, there's a lot of jokes around that.
Yeah.
Appropriate jokes nonetheless, but
Well, do you think the CSM? I mean, why are you running? The CSM not covering Lowsec as well as you'd like to see?
I thought that, I mean, I honestly thought that I could have some input. I mean, I'm definitely not a big name at all. I know some people, places, but I'm definitely an unknown
Yeah,
person. So,
I know famous people, but I'm not one of
yeah, basically,
them.
I'm friends with some
But
few
sometimes
people.
you guys are the ones that famous people kind of talk to get new information. Like,
That's true. It's
yeah,
definitely true. The behind the scenes people,
it's one thing to be a good at being a public figure. It's another thing to like study the game, how the mechanics are working, and where the advantages are.
Yeah, but I definitely, I wouldn't call myself like, I really wouldn't call myself an expert. Like I'm not Sutonia, and I love Sutonia, and
Mm-hmm.
he's great, but I'm no Sutonia. I PvP, I've done a lot of stuff, and I have input, but I'm not a PhD in PvP. You know?
All these acronyms. All
Yeah.
right. So you tell me what is it about CSM that attracts you? Why do you want to participate?
I definitely think that this year is going to be very important, especially with the I guess the final structures that is supposed to be implemented. The long-awaited drilling platforms and moon mining changes. That's definitely something I want to have an input on. I
Mm-hmm.
currently run a very large, I run an alliance level moon mining operation, and I have to deal with, people attacking it and attacking other people's structures for moon mining. And I feel like it's one of the last big content generators in the game that hasn't been completely changed in the last 5 years.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's going to be very important the direction that CCP takes with how they implement them. And I mean, I know in my forum posts I talk about citadels, and I think citadels, if they follow the citadel model, there's going to be a gap in content, especially around those structures and what they offer. If they keep it the way it is right now and simply just replace posses with some citadel type moon structure that has a moon mining function, I guess, if that makes any sense.
You're saying that would be a mistake then?
I think it would be a mistake to just simply translate moon mining into a citadel type structure. And now I could be incorrect because there really hasn't been much information released about them at all beyond that they want to do them, right? They want to make it some sort of interactive process, but there really hasn't been much more information than that I've seen, at least in the last year or two. So
Mm-hmm. So are you worried at all? Like becoming a CSM member, uh, you have to sign an NDA, and now it's going to restrict your gameplay. You won't be able to invest in certain things without it looking suspicious and stuff like that.
I've never been a person who hops on like the market train or the hype train around like changes. I've always been a person who kind of like waits and sees. I never really had the money either to do anything like that or stuff like that. I've always all my money goes into dying in ships basically. So
Where it should go, right?
where it should go, yes.
Yeah. So, um, and you have some thoughts on capitals too, right?
I have some thoughts, especially in the area around dreadnoughts and carriers.
By the
If
way,
well, and if axes and dreads and carriers. Sorry, go ahead.
before I'm sorry for jumping on you, but before you start, they just announced they're going to look at Shield supers, and
I saw that.
yeah, can you explain that? What's going on there?
So they're increasing for right now, is from what I saw in the changes. Let me pull them up. From what I remember, they're simply increasing right now the fighter hangar bay on the Hell and the Wyvern.
Yeah,
And they're going to, I guess, look at how that changes them. And I guess it's the first time I've heard them also talk about shield slaves. Finally,
right.
besides the CSM post, and I'm fairly excited that they're not just vaporware at this point, that that's actually a thing that they're working on, because it's been a long time coming. So
I thought that was the big piece of news. Not that the drone bay was
it's
bigger, but
yeah, it's well, I haven't. That's what people been talking about the drone bay, but I saw that shield slave mention, and I was like, I haven't seen many people typing. I didn't think I see. I didn't. Yeah, I'm sorry. I don't think I even saw a post on our Eve about that.
Yeah. I was like,
Yeah,
where'd that come from? I haven't heard about that. And not only
yeah.
that, but they're gonna, they're gonna bring those out so they're a reality, and then they're gonna look to see, where these shield supers are, because there's some talk that they're kind of underpowered because they get their capacitors zapped too quickly, and then they're just kind of out of the game. And armor doesn't have to worry about that as much.
I mean, it's not so much an issue with the EHP themselves. If you look at the act, I mean, just as you've looked at the active Aeon and the active Wyvern, right, the two tankiest of the, the shield tank and the shield and the armor tank, they have roughly the same EHP active tanked, and that's including slaves on the Aeon. And that's with the active tank. Obviously, passive tank on a Wyvern is going to be much worse than a passive tank on an Aeon. So, I mean, but that's sort of the argument. But if you're looking at an active perspective, right, in a fleet fight, they're both going to have the same problems with active fits.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I'm more interested personally in how shield saves are going to affect the subcap meta, especially since pirate battleships are so prevalent. Might actually finally have a counter to the Macarials and Shield Slave Rattlesnakes or Shield Slave Scorp Navies or something like that.
Yeah. Now,
Interested to see. Sorry, go ahead.
I might be an idiot here, but aren't nightmares shield?
They are.
Yeah.
So that would be one thing. But I've never really been a super big fan of the Nightmare. Just I don't know. I've always, if I'm gonna go shields, I never really. So I mean, it's a good skirmish doctrine, but I think when you're brought, if you're going in, to fight Macarials are gonna win, or in
That's
T3s
true.
maybe. In low sec, we don't really see nightmares that much. I know that CVA likes to use them a lot in
Yeah.
null, but um,
They,
don't seem to do very well.
they like to offer them up for sacrifices for the big gods.
They don't do well versus, in my opinion, versus the Macarial, or even the Rattlesnake does. I think has a better. I don't know. I mean, I Shadow Cartel has a nightmare doctrine, but they don't really use them that well since they just don't do well against Macarials, and Macarials are just just a better all around option in my opinion for fleet fights. They're so cheap.
Yes, and all these have come down. Even the nightmares at about 300 million, down from a billion
Yes.
too. So it's really weird to see these, ships that used to cost so much money be really just another battleship.
I remember when Vindicators were what 1.2 billion, and buying them was such a big, huge deal, and them dying was a big, huge deal. And now you see them faction warfare people have Macarials and Vindicators and Nightmares, and they're dime a dozen nowadays.
Yeah, yeah. I paid billions for the few that I flew and still have, and now they're worth a fraction of that. No problem.
Yeah.
Um, yeah. So the other area that you kind of want to talk about is faction warfare, right?
Yes. I mean, I'm not in, so I'm not in faction warfare per se, but there's definitely a big portion of our alliance that's enrolled in faction warfare. Two of our well, one corporation, for sure is an Amar, was an Amar faction warfare corp that joined us, and they still do Amar faction warfare stuff. Space Brewery Association, and there's definitely a lot of like old school faction warfare people in the alliance, and DHSJ itself used to Predator Elite used to be a faction warfare FC. So there's a lot of faction warfare history in DHSJ. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm not in faction warfare, but I PvP in faction warfare space. I interact with faction warfare people all the time. So I have an opinion, and I definitely like to hear my alliance members' opinions on it who actually have faction warfare alts and do that. So I kind of drew my platform from listening to them and seeing what their complaints were mostly, and and even the some of the stuff impacts me, especially something like like one of them was the suspect timer. I
Mm-hmm.
always that definitely hate that one. I warp to this plex and then I have to chase some neutral, and I go to the gate and I can't fight him. He won't engage me because that means I can fight him. But if I fight him, I take gate guns, and it's just not
Yeah.
fun. We have to chasing some guy 60 AU across the system.
Yeah, so he runs to the safety of the giant gate guns that'll blast you if you attack him.
Yeah. 350 DPS you have to account for when you're, and it doesn't help if you're in something that's not active tanked. And then, you have to think that if I'm active tank, can my active tank him plus the gate guns? Or if any of his friends, if he has friends show up, that kind of, oh. just
Yeah.
it just adds complexity. I mean, it adds that risk versus reward, I guess, right? If you want to kill this guy, you have to risk getting gate guns, but I think it's unnecessary. The guy already demonstrated he wanted to fight someone at a Plex, but he felt that it wasn't in his interest to fight, so he just ran. And I feel like that's okay, but I feel like being in a Plex should give you a suspect timer, right? You demonstrated that you wanted to PvP. You shouldn't just be able to run away because some guy showed up that might have been able to kill you.
Yeah, but what do you think of the idea of using the environment as a weapon?
As a shield.
Maybe not a
Um,
shield. Maybe he's using it as a cannon. I guess it's
that's
a
true.
shield.
Yeah. Well, it's both. I mean, it's two-sided, right? You
Or
have
just
him using it.
dragging somebody through NPCs and then aggro ticks them off and they start attacking the guy attacking you. It throws variables into combat situations. What do you think of that, though?
It's a valid strategy. I think at the very minimum, if you're in factional warfare, I think. I mean, there are arguments for and against it. Obviously, I think that it's worth talking about, but not sure if we want to debate that single point.
No, not really. This is more about you. More about you than about, oh, look at the smart idea I came up with. I want to
Yeah.
I want to hear about your thoughts. But that was one I was, hoping to draw you out to see like if that's a place where you can play with ideas and stuff. But you know what? You've demonstrated very well, at least to my satisfaction, a knowledge of the game and how it works and stuff. Because you're not on the top layers of things, right? You're digging into
I'm
the back and the forth of mechanics.
Yeah, I try. I mean, obviously, again I'm not Capri, I'm not Sotonia, and I'm not some people like that who are experts on various aspects of the game, and I admit that and I embrace it. I'm a guy who's I PvP a lot and I understand a lot of the game mechanics, but I'm not an expert on, I'm not like someone who's a technical expert, right? I don't know if that makes any sense, right? Like it's a person who's you're really good with computers and you can do stuff with them, but you're not a computer programmer, right? Or a computer engineer, I guess is what I don't know if
Yeah.
that analogy
Well,
makes
it must
sense.
be interesting because for the lay person that's playing Eve, they look at you and they see someone who knows the mechanics. And then you look at someone like the people you just mentioned, and you're like, oh no, that's a whole different level.
Yes.
And for the first person, they can't distinguish between you two.
Right,
But you
but the
know enough to
person in the
know.
yeah, person in the middle can distinguish between the person who's way more advanced and the person who's not. Yeah, yeah.
The problem with people that are too advanced is that they maybe lost connection with the first person. And that may be an
So,
advantage that you have.
yeah, I see that. Like I read Capri's blog post on whatever subject, and I understand what he's saying. And then, I can attempt to relate, try and convert that to terms. But, I think those people are pretty good at relaying those terms, even to the layperson. So
Mm-hmm.
then you're like, well, what's the point of view, right? What are you? But, maybe I don't know.
I like the way you
I think
imitated
there's,
me.
yeah. Sorry, I took your role over there.
No, you made me sound like a thug. I think you gave me more credibility than I actually had. Good, good, thank you. But no, it's. I'm not trying to say then you're redundant because you have the experts in there that you think are great. So where do you belong? Where's your thing? And I'm saying the opposite of that. I'm saying the experts will get sought out by CCP anyway. They're going to and have talked to Sutonia anyway. They will talk to Capri anyway. They'll get those nuts and bolts conversations that maybe Fozzie has with them. So what, maybe the CSM makes that easier. But is there room for someone like you? I think sure there is. Somebody that can understand the concepts that are being talked about, but also somebody that understands how those concepts may apply to somebody who isn't always thinking about their discipline.
I'd agree with that. I think I think that's fair. Maybe I don't see it, but maybe, when I'm explaining it to one of my guys, someone who's not playing, 24/7 playing the game all the time, right?
Mm-hmm.
I get that.
Yeah. Well, as far as the logistics of being a member of CSM, or Is it somewhere you would be able to go to Iceland and that sort of thing?
Right now, I'm a student, so I have pretty fair amount of free time.
Oh, how
I'm
old
not.
are you?
I'm 22.
Okay. When did you start
So
playing this game?
I started playing when I was a sophomore in high school. So I was about 15 or 16, I think.
Yeah.
2009. So that would be, Jesus, that's 8 years ago.
Yeah.
So
It's been a big part of your life.
hold on a second, sirens.
Uh, you're not getting swatted, are you? Actually, you're not on camera. No problem about the sirens. We'll wait them out in a second. But I think it's interesting. There's a generation of players that are now young men that started out as kids, essentially, teenagers playing Eve, which is kind of a complex game with actually a lot of adults in it. Um, and here they are now, grown up years later, having a ton of experience and still being really, really young.
Well, I don't know. I don't know if you know that Elo is actually the same age I am. I'm not
I
sure
didn't
if
know
you
he
knew
was that
that.
young. No.
Yeah, he's actually his birthday. He's actually like 3 or 4 months older, or yeah, older than me. Yeah, he's like 3 or 4 months older than me.
Hmm.
So he started playing the game. I think. Yeah, he started playing the game way earlier than I did. I can't actually remember when he started playing. He was
Isn't
back
it?
in Atlas. I think he's been playing since he was like 12 or 13, actually.
He was in Atlas originally.
Yeah, he was, if I
That's
remember correctly.
I started out as a pet to Atlas. I was in Scorched Earth, and you wouldn't remember that, I guess. It was
No, that's before
it's just a pet.
before my time. I'm actually looking at Elo's history right now.
But it's interesting that you young men are kind of like the same age and have been playing. You have as much experience as I do, and you're 22. Like
Yeah.
it amazes me. The people who started at 22 are now turning 30. Isn't that wild?
That's yeah, I hear that. I'm like, ugh. Guys that I know that I started playing are now turning. I know a couple of guys who were 30 when I started playing, and now they're almost 40 years old, 39 years old. Ugh.
You've probably seen people get families and get married and all
Yeah,
that kind of stuff.
guys that stopped playing because they had kids or, you know, moved away or got their life on track.
Yeah, they started
That's
winning Eve.
yeah.
Someday I'll stop all this and go back to my real life.
I tried, believe me. It's hard. I spent so I actually stopped I took about let's say I took a 9 or 10 month break for the game for real life stuff for college. 2014 to 2000 like the to like the end of 2014 to the about a year, I think I took a break for some real life stuff,
Hmm.
Then I started playing again. So getting used to some stuff that changed while I was gone was kind of interesting. You know, I started playing I think a month before the capital changes came out. Yeah, I started playing in March. That was a month before
Yeah,
Citadel and the capital
huge
changes.
changes.
Yeah, yeah. So that was a little bit jarring when I started playing again, reading about these changes. Like, wait, what are they doing? I still had a Nidhogger with a triage module fitted on it that I moved down, and just like, oof, yeah.
Well, sorry, I had to clear my throat. Actually, when you came back, then you were in White Legion, I imagine.
I was in White. I joined. Yep, I joined right at the March, right when White Legion was gearing up. Right at the very beginning. So
You were fighting in the north, probably. You were one of the few that were fighting on the side of the Imperium.
yes, they were. We had a contract with the Imperium, and we were paid to basically go to O1Y and fight Horde, which we did pretty
Hmm.
regularly. Took the classic Munin fleets, tried the shield materials, shield artillery materials, super munions out a little bit. Didn't use those as much, but we had them.
You guys love your Munins, Black Legion.
Oh yes, I still have. I think I still have my original munin. Actually, I think it's still in K3J. I don't think I ever moved it or got rid of it. I think it's still sitting there.
Yeah.
Might have to go get it one of these days.
Yeah, I think of you guys every time that ship comes up.
I think everyone does.
What about Corp involvement and Alliance involvement? Do you do anything?
Um, so right now I'm actually part of DHSJ's leadership. Right now, I run the Alliance like Moon network, I guess Moon operations. Plus, I'm also an FC. I do FC Blops, IFC Capitals. I did a little bit of Super FCing before I lost my Super. I'm getting currently in the process. I have another one. I just haven't gotten it moved down. So
Who picked
um,
you off?
I actually lost my first super to Shadow Cartel before we were frenemies. I guess we're not blue, but we're kind of friends right now. So
Hmm. Yeah, it's you could do worse. Shadow Cartel's pretty good.
yeah, we're in the middle of a little bit of a pincer conflict right now, but that's I'm not sure we're here to talk about that. So
No, but what's funny about Shadow Cartel is of all the guys at E Vegas convention, they were the ones that looked like most normal. They look like they're athletic, good looking, seemed very relaxed to be there and stuff. Just like, if I were if I were at a software convention or something, I'd be like, yeah, that's the table I want to hang out with.
I like to think that I don't know. There's a lot of I don't know. There's not a lot of diehards in DHSJ. I mean, we have a few, but most of the people seem like pretty. You're pretty average guy, right? Logs in, PvPs a little bit, logs out. Like one of the guys just had a kid yesterday. I think his baby
Oh,
boy. So I mean, we have a lot of normal people.
that's
I
congratulations.
guess.
Well,
Yeah,
abnormal people can repopulate too, but
that's
I see
true.
what you're saying.
I mean, like the 9 to 5, guys, I guess. There's a
Right.
lot of those in all alliances, but I think we're one of the more,
Yeah. What about
yeah.
where do you guys live? You say
We live,
DHSJ, but it's did you say jump, which is a great name.
did he say jump?
Oh, did he say jump? Yeah.
Well, people say either way, works both ways, I guess. We live right next to Alamake. We live in Secede, one jump from Alamake, PL's ancestral homeland.
Hmm.
So,
It's also a pipe between hubs, so you can catch people moving uh,
yeah,
stuff back and forth.
a lot of traffic from people who forget to ignore or forget to prefer high sec, come through Huola from Amar to go to Renz or to Heck or Mimitar high sec.
Yeah,
Interesting.
that forget to ignore. You can pick a system, say ignore this system, don't go near it, and it routes you around dangerous systems. And there's about how many of those would you say there are? Like Rancer,
Yeah,
something
you
like
have Rancer, you have Odalin Huola, you have Renz, you have Ossiger, which is the high sec to Amamake. You have a lot of people who come through there. There's a lot of those, like especially around Mimitar. Mimitar has like way more fact like especially if you forget like going between like Renz and Heck and something like that, or like between Molden Heath, high sec and Heck or Renz or something, you can go through low sec pretty easily if you're not paying attention.
that. Yeah.
So there's a lot of gate campers, a lot of people like that that like to hang out in Mimitar Losec and Amar Losec.
I love those back alley low sec areas. They feel like the woods between two little towns.
Yeah, Mimitar especially. There's a lot of those like semi-empty systems where you only see one or two guys in the low sec, and it's almost like a high sec system, right? No one will really. There's no one to bother you. There might be the occasional guy who strolls through your part, but otherwise it's not like Caldari low sec or Galente low sec. There's not a lot of systems don't have a lot of traffic.
Yeah. Yeah, you can tell that on the Dotland map. They get like 5 to 10 jumps, and even the least populated system in Sync Lison is 40 to 90
Yeah.
jumps or whatever.
So there's a lot of traffic over there. Some systems, you won't even see some people like after downtime, you'll go to a system, maybe you need to go check something and the system's not even loaded because no one's been in it since downtime. Occasionally you'll have one of those.
That's awesome. All right, man. It's really nice talking to you. I think you're very well. I think you're too modest. You're very well. You present information well. You're very knowledgeable. I can tell that you have a lot of knowledge, and not just in PvP and lowsec, but also in it sounds like drilling platforms is something you care about because of your experience with logistics and moon mining and stuff like that.
I'd like to say I represent I mean maybe not wormholes, but I have a decent slice of life from low sec, null sec. I've done industry, I've done moon mining. I've done a lot of stuff, and I feel like I bring a well-rounded view.
Yeah. All right. Well, tell Elo we said hello. He still owes me a show. He was going to show up and he didn't make it.
I will tell him he's currently planning a road trip, so I will see if maybe he can squeeze in some time.
Awesome. All right. Uh, you go by JR? JR?
Yeah, that's what everyone calls me. It's easier than my misspelled first name.
Was that really a misspelling?
I don't know. The guy I bought it from in 2010. You have to ask him.
just say he was German. They pronounce it differently there. All right, JR.
There you go.
Good luck with your campaign.
Thank you very much, Matt. Appreciate it.